"Come to me," says Jesus, "all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." What then is heavy? What then is difficult? What then yokes are too hard to bear? It seems sometimes that the past is one of those things we resist leaving in the past. And we end up carrying it around us, rolling around some sort of heavy luggage that would certainly not pass the airport inspection scales. It's true, right? The past, sometimes we hold on to it. And maybe it's the decisions we made in the past. We took one job over another, or we didn't move when we might have, could have, or we made a choice and we wonder if we'd just gone a different direction. If we'd just done something different, what would life be like now? And it haunts us. Or maybe it's that relationship. Maybe romantic, but maybe just a friendship, or maybe just familial. And for some reason, it didn't work out. People change. Circumstances change. And sometimes, time doesn't heal every wound. But there are those expectations we also find. They get laid upon our shoulders like weights when we're young. Things our families tell us, things that culture expects of us, things religion's institutions demand of us. And they set on our shoulders and they acquire weight when we can't meet the expectations. Or we work our whole lives to meet the expectations and we lose our own self and our own soul in the process. And then we don't know who we are. And we wonder who we might be if it were all different. And I think for some of us, grief is like a backpack. And it's grief for the people in our lives that aren't there. Maybe death claimed them, but maybe they're just not present to us. And we're down, heavy. But maybe it's just the past mistakes that we made, or the ways that we failed, or the things that didn't go right. And pretty soon, we're down, and we're down. And it's just too much to carry. "You who carry heavy burdens," says Jesus, "I will give you rest." The psalmist says today that the Lord upholds all who are falling and raises up all who are bowed down. That the past has formed us and carried us, burdened us and broken us and blessed us, but it's not the sum of who we are. It's not the totality of who we are. And the invitation of Jesus is whether we can trust God with who we have been and what we have done, and if we can set it down. If we're willing to let Jesus pick the weight off our shoulders, or at least a couple of them, or carry the suitcase for a while. There is something heavy that can drag on us when we let the past continue to define us in the present. But the yoke can be broken. And Jesus Christ came to heal every wound in the infiniteness of time. And Jesus Christ endures all things and forgives all things. And can we trust him enough to let the past be the past? But maybe for you, the past was a golden age of a lifetime or a childhood, sunny memories. You know, the kind of Polaroids that are sepia with love. And instead, it's the future. Like some kind of yoke strapped to your neck, it drags you forward at a pace you don't want to go, scratching you up, pulling you ahead, torturing you. Because you look ahead and the economic uncertainty's a lot to bear. How on earth will you retire if you can't get more money into that IRA or that Roth? How on earth will you ever afford college maybe for just the one child that you have. And what about your aging parents? Surely they'll need help to get into some kind of place that's nice. How will you do it? Maybe you'll have to take up that second job. But then there's also the moment where you look in the mirror and there's some gray hair popping up, or maybe a lot of gray hair popping up, and you begin to realize that maybe what's come before is the longest part and what's ahead is a lot shorter. And what is aging? And how do you do it? And what does it mean to say goodbye to this wild and precious life that is your own? What happens if you don't get into the university or the master's program? What happens if you don't find time to heal your marriage or your relationship with your kids? And so the future, the yoke around our necks, it begins to really choke us, pulling us at a pace we can't really afford to go, but you can't halt time. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, says Jesus. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. The Lord is good to all, writes the psalmist. His compassion is over all things that he has made. And that includes the future. That God accompanies us and holds us through all things. There's a humility in Jesus Christ, right? The one who is God the Son takes on human flesh and finiteness. And perhaps the greatest humility we learn from Jesus is to, in fact, be human. That we cannot and should not and never will know the future. That we're finite and we're human. And too often we don't want to be. We want to know what's next. We want to control the outcome. But really all we have is actually right now. And do we trust the goodness of God who's held us in the past and holds us now to hold us in the future? Because the invitation is to a yoke that's light, that walks at a pace we can manage, that knows us better than we know ourselves and can chart a path to a place that will lead us to rest. But sometimes it's not the past or the future. The present is a little too much to bear. Because really, you're doing too many whack-a-moles to think about what was or what's coming. Because how are you supposed to be a good spouse and a good parent and keep a full-time job and visit your aging parents in the nursing home and buy that birthday present for your cousin and remember that the family reunion's in 2 weeks and you've got to plan the vacation in 6 months and your other side of your in-laws are calling to see if you're coming for Christmas and really all you want's a cup of coffee on the beach, but you have to go to the gym because if you don't meet your mile time, it's all going to be over. Right? Variations on a theme, I'm sure. But there's the other side of the present, too, for some of us, where the time seems interminable because you don't know quite what you're doing. And you'd pick up the phone and call someone if you had someone to call, but you really don't. And so the seconds drag into minutes that drag into days. And there's a kind of sweltering lethargy and sadness. And the present is unpleasant. And maybe to escape either the unknown or the sort of feeling of loss in the present or the feeling of extreme overwhelm, we eat too much or we drink too much or we make our exercise our God or we pour ourselves out and never know who we are. And so it's all just so heavy. Come to me, all you who are weary. All your work shall give thanks to you, O Lord, says the psalmist, and all your faithful shall bless you. Giving thanks and blessing are hard when you're running so fast or when you're stuck in a slog. And rest is neither of those things. Rest isn't sleeping in the morning. That's not what Jesus means. Much as I would love that. It's not actually what Jesus means. Rest for the soul is something deeper than that. Rest for the soul is submitting to the way of Jesus Christ, to the yoke that's love, to walking at the pace that God knows is right for us. on a path that God can chart. A pace and a path that can sustain us through the minutes and the days and the months and the years, in every weather, through all conditions. The rest Jesus offers is finding our soul's strength in the love of God. The love that looks at us and knows that we are loved and longs for us to find a space within ourselves, a peace in the present. It's not escapism. It's not post-death. It's a rest now. Not just from busyness, but a kind of mental rest in which we know that the outcome of everything doesn't rely on us. We do not control all things. People make choices. We've made choices. God loves us anyway. God loves those people too. Rest is knowing the anchor of our souls in Jesus Christ. And the burden of that is knowing our own humanness, of trusting God enough to walk where he leads. Come to me, says Jesus, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light.